Chapter 1. Enter Blooming Fire. Thud, 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 pause. Thud, 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 pause. Ugh, my ears, Opal sighed. She stepped off her bed and stumbled over the door, gazing out towards the mountain tops in the snow surrounding the Sorrel Woods. Over the years, the beating has gone faster, more human. When she was little, it was slower, almost as if it were sick. Though the faster it gets with time, the louder it gets, keeping her up till the early hours of the day. Thud, 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 pause, she said sharply, creeping back under the covers. She walked over towards the window, shutting the pale curtains, hoping to block the sound. One by one, each curtain was closed. Again, again, again. This had been happening for years now, speeding up or slowing down. It didn't matter. It was always there. When she was little, it didn't used to be this bad, but now it was thundering in the back of her skull. She knew that it came from the forest, Tiniberous Woods, up north. The closer she got to the forest, the louder it got. Today, that would change. She'd find out what it was, and she'd stop it too, and then maybe she would sleep again. No more nightmares, no more staring until the moon left. Sweet, sweet silence. A switchblade, medkit, trunks. Hearing her own voice as it bounced off the walls, quick and light. She threw her bag over her shoulder and began walking towards the door. "All right," she began as she walked towards the forest, wet grass sinking under her boots. As she made trek, she looked up to the sky. The pale, empty sky glittered with magic. Wispy clouds scarcely danced around the sky, blowing in the wind. The sun extended over the horizon. She walked into the woods, the pines stretching and reaching for the sky. The ground soft and moss-covered as she began walking. As she walked further and further in, the ground began cracking under her weight, dry breeze snapping. Thud, thud, thud. It was louder now, headache-inducing. It began to feel as though someone was hitting her in the back of the head with a rock or something. She walked further and further in, as it got louder and louder. Out of the corner of her eye, she watched as the bush shook. In a blink of an eye, this creature was running at her, knocking her to the ground. It was about the size of a small horse, or a pony. With it right over her, she saw as a black tail, crowded with fur, spring over her. It was less than a moment, and the creature was back into the void that was the woods. Opal sat up, still in shock. She peered over her shoulder, the ground swaying under her legs. Blinding blue eyes flashed back at her before turning back into the woods. A few moments go by, and the ground finally feels solid again. Opal notices as the beating was still pulsing in her head. She stood again to walk towards the center of the woods, her head on a swivel, searching for any sign of that wolf. On, further and further, past the looming willows and patches of thorns and beauty. She walked till she came across a mound of thorns and dirt, with that appeared to be a person underneath. She walked closer to the mound and spotted an eye from inside. She gulped, dropping down to the ground, pulling up on the vines till the figure was unbound. The figure looked nothing like she'd ever seen before. It looked human enough, just coated in dirt. The creature had, along with the human silhouette, huge black wings that reminded Opal of a raven or owl, along with ears that slumped. It also had fluffy black hair cut at about its shoulders, and a dark complexion with small silver freckles and streaks in its hair. Opal crouched closer to the figure and began to check its breathing. She watched as the creature's chest slowly rose and fell again, short and wispy, as if it were asleep. There was a person in the woods, by themselves, asleep. She sat on her knees and began shaking the creature. "Wake up!" she screamed. And that was when she noticed. Her voice was loud, echoing in the forest. It had been muffled for as long as she could remember, but it was loud. She looked down to the person in front of her. "This is what I was looking for," she breathed. She stood next to the figure and attempted to pick up the figure with no avail. Deciding it was better than just leaving the figure, she began dragging the person out of the mound. She dragged it till they were out of the woods, careful not to watch too closely to the flaming ultramarine eye staring from the woods. Ugh! Opal stared down at the creature's wide eyes. She's about halfway from the forest to her house by now, dragging the person. The creature was beginning to open its eyes, milky with black and brown. It looked up to Opal, feelings of curiosity and mild fear emitted from the person. "Who are you?" she asked the figure.